Is Rome the best civ in Civilization 6? I'm going to test that theory by reforming the Roman Empire on the largest possible map on deity difficulty. The AI gets buffs to science, combat strength, and most importantly starts with 3 cities to my 1. To make things harder, I'm packing Europe with every civ imaginable, meaning I can't peacefully settle and build up, but have to conquer a supercharged AI while at a massive disadvantage. By doing this, I'll prove not only that Rome is the best civ, but how you can use Rome to dominate any game of civilization, no matter how new you are to the game. And with my foolproof plan to beat this challenge, I don't think it'll be too hard, but before we get into that, we have to set up our start. The Roman civilization centralized at around 4000 BC when the vast farmlands and fertile plains of northern Italy joined into a singular entity, the city of Roma. Oh god, quick, honey, bolt down the TV! In our exploration campaigns, the Roman scouts discovered a foreign peoples near the northern passes, and after contact was established, they launched a raid into our camp. Word was sent back to Roma, who sent reinforcements before the tag team duo made Stalin look like a human rights activist. After what many would consider a violation of human rights, our people were wary when it came to meeting outsiders, but eventually established contact with some foreign peoples and realized something. If we secure these mountain passes, surely no one will be able to raid the heartland of our burgeoning city-state. The early game goals are the same as any other, having to set up for conquest this time by getting the prerequisite technologies of ironworking and masonry for legions and battering rams respectively, praying that there are a few deposits of iron in our general vicinity, dealing with any uncivilized brutes by forcefully, yet peacefully, asking their entire population to drop dead, it's genocide, and to settle as many cities as I can. In fact, we should focus on preparing settler parties and set up a well-disciplined army of prostate examiners using the black stone we found deposits of. Not the only black substance found near Roma, and in order to not be burned alive under magma, we begin praying to the volcano to spare us, and take the Taylor Swift fans instead. Our expedition was a stunning success, founding the city of Gentia, but the people, known as Macedonians, have taken control of the other pass, proving a threat to our national security. However, the citizens of said city, Pula, were rebelling due to starvation, as Alexander was requisitioning their grain supplies to feed his massive army. And with the combination of starvation and communism, the city wanted to secede. Through their quick thinking, the Romans immediately send a delegation of Reddit moderators, leaving Pula impressed at their substantial girth, and no doubt evident food supplies as they seek to join our empire. After funding their uprising, the Roman army peacefully took control of the city, and with the passes secured, explored outwards, meeting the Polish people and the source of Pula's communism issue. The Ottoman-Macedonian War, where Alexander was getting his testicles stomped on by an onion, was proving to be not the best turn of events for internal security. After coming to an agreement over the Roman claim over Pula, we leave the Ottomans to have free reign over the rest of the Balkans. However, sensing an opportunity, the Romans activated like a sleeper agent in what historians would come to call a pro-gamer move. It's a good thing our nation is established on the cutting edge of technology, leading to a golden age of development, and having just eliminated all potential native problems, leaving us to be able to focus squarely on the rapidly heating Cold War between the two Romes. But before that, what is our long-term plan to conquer the Roman Empire? The challenge isn't easy, especially with such a large map, but with Operation Father Time, it is doable. We will conquer the Mediterranean in a clockwise formation, starting with the Balkans, Middle East, North Africa, Spain, and finally France. This makes it so we aren't jumping from place to place and wasting time, leading to the speed of our conquests increasing substantially. In order to come out on top in this battle of titans, the Romans needed an advantage. With their superior combat training and equipment of the legion, the government transitioned to a military rule of generals, before deciding to draw first blood, beginning what is now known as the Battle of the Danube. This was a bloody battle, as no side could have an advantage, with a vast river separating battle lines, nullifying the Ottoman advantage in cavalry. But their archers posed a problem. Able to attack us safely from a distance and having no range of our own, they needed to be dealt with. But due to the Romans' elite training, they were able to bait the Ottomans to attack first, depleting their reserves, before counterattacking and shattering the Ottoman lines. You can call them John D with how they rocked a fella in what would be viewed as a decisive spanking, leaving the path to Bucharest and Bursa wide open, as the Ottomans were forced to quickly prepare a siege of their capital. The Battle of Ankara was a difficult siege. With their new walls and ranged support, they were able to keep the Romans at bay for a while before a really large stick crashed open their gates as the Romans flooded into the city, but somehow Suleiman managed to escape capture as his palace was taken over by the purple and gold. Our distinguished soldiers were showered with praise and took pride in their legion names. The world will forever know the exploits of the anal appetizers, the cunt queefers, and last but not least, the titty twisters. Comment down below your username or whatever you want to be called, and I'll put it in as a unit name in the next video. But the people of Ankara were still loyal to the still-alive Sultan, whose allies fled to neighboring Phoenicia, and in order to solidify our gains, they needed to go. The Phoenicians were preoccupied with their war with Cyrus, but they still have a massive advantage. Some might say literally insurmountable, as their mountain passes and walled settlements serve to slow down any invading army. And if we bog down and allow them to pour in reinforcements to the city of Gesundheit, we may be stalled until bombards come around, and who knows if Ankara can last that long. We have to break through before that happens. The legions swarmed the positions, and with disregard for their own lives, established a beachhead over the mountains. Their passes still slowed down our advance, and through guerrilla tactics, it took well-timed promotions to break through the city of Gesundheit, leaving a wide-open path to Jerusalem. With their army cut off from their supply lines like a Jewish foreskin, the Phoenician army deserts as the joint Persian-Roman army raced for Petra and then Medina. A race won by the Romans, which angered Persia greatly, as they did most of the heavy lifting. The securing of the eastern Med established a sea route directly to Rome and killed any Ottoman sympathizers. But the Carthaginian people share a close tie with the rich lands of Egypt and have taken refuge in their empire. My calling the perpetrators Nazis couldn't convince Cleo to hand them over, as the wrong leader is in charge. And Trajan is what people commonly refer to as Rizless, and thus plans for an invasion were drawn up. But with the riches of Egypt, we need to blitz their population centers before they can buy an army to stop us, when accounting for the fact they're Egypt. The Nile is rich in resources, and with deity difficulty, they're making twice as much money as normal. Now, stopping Rome with a mercenary army is like stopping Hitler with a contract, but loyalty is an issue, and if we get bogged down, we may find ourselves in a two-front war with a revolution. But with the Egyptian flatlands and Hannibal leading the charge, they may just have the speed... Wait. First, they settled the city of Carthage to close in the Egyptian... Okay, wait a minute. The rebellions in Petra and Medina are slowed down due to effective bureaucracy from Pingala and voracious appetite from the anal appetizers. But they serve as nothing more than stopgaps. The Battle of Egypt began with Roman legions force marching before splitting into two. The speed of such an assault caught the Egyptians by surprise as Hannibal took the Sinai choke point before they could mount a proper response, allowing Roman troops and supplies to pour through, smashing through their lines into open fields where the Romans and their elite land army have the proverbial strap-on in this sleepover. Securing Egypt's gold reserves to fuel the Roman war machine, which would be needed soon, as after securing the Levant and North Africa, the Romans prepared to move their troops west, but there were still some scorned parties scared they might potentially be next. The power of the East Persia is at the head of a massive coalition of all our previous enemies as they attempt to liberate the Balkans and Middle East, putting us on the back foot for the first time in this video in a three-front war. Being not only outnumbered but also out-ironed with the advanced Persian military, we need to find a way to close the gap. Studying the advanced metallurgy techniques, the Romans equipped their own legions with new and improved tools just in time for the protracted protracted battle of Gesundheit. The difference came in experience, where the Persian army was filled with new conscripts, as Scythia in the east have taken this opportunity to launch an incursion of their own, leading to a complete decimation of the Persian war machine, and with their neutered allies proving more useless than a Zimbabwean dollar, they buckle under a second front as they quickly sign a peace treaty, ending the coalition in a decisive Roman victory. But with this extra time, the West has taken this time to beef up and catch up to Rome technologically due to the rebirth or Renaissance Western Europe has undertaken. The countless wars have done a number on the Roman treasury, who use this time of peace to give power to the burghers' estate who are tasked with fixing the economy. This turned out to be a prudent move, as the funds collected allowed a second army to be trained for Gaul, even making use of an explosive gunpowder to further power their elite infantry. The path to France is blocked, and any invasion would get bogged down, so the plan is to first invade Iberia before launching a two-pronged offensive against Gaul. But in order to invade Iberia, they need a navy to contest the seas against Portugal, a naval superpower. Thus, the Romans put their new gunpowder on ships, creating the first frigates to be used as landing support. But any beach landing is difficult and needs specialized forces. Enter Admiral Yi Sun Sin, a proud Roman who established the first ironclad to spearhead the landings, and thus the invasion of Iberia was ready. The gun sounded a declaration of war, as Palma was seized as a key resupply point for the frigates and ironclads, which proved exceptional in wresting control of the Mediterranean and Valencia from the Portuguese. The esteemed Roman army was given free rein to land wherever they pleased. However, frustratingly enough, guerrilla warfare slowed them down. With their new walls and rugged terrain, the Romans needed bigger guns to take down the walls, and sent word back to Roma, who quickly sent the reinforcements, in between trying to justify the invasion with their powerful neighbors on their unprotected doorsteps. After a long-fought siege, Madrid falls, but it served its purpose, allowing time for Portugal to construct forts and replicate Roman tactics. With our advantage vanished and a coalition staring us down, the Romans were forced to admit defeat, able to keep their holdings and half of Iberia for themselves, but even that was, unfortunately, unsustainable. The loss bolstered guerrilla efforts, forcing the Romans to burn down Madrid and prevent Portugal from making use of it. This show of strength wasn't enough, as Valencia was on the brink, and the Romans realized they needed to take Iberia or face imminent collapse that other empires are sure to take advantage of. What Roma needed was a superweapon. Restructuring and developing new tactics for their land army, a discovery was made that changed the course of history forever: black gold. With this chemical, the Romans refitted their bombards with deadlier and more effective shrapnel. After these reforms, the Portuguese broke the peace treaty by resettling their lost lands as the second invasion of Iberia was underway. The Romans still controlled the seas, and as a result, the landing goes just as easily. The shrapnel in particular proved most effective, ripping cities to shreds, while the reformed land army aided in securing Iberia at lightning speed, with special awards going to the BBCs, who were instrumental in taking the Portuguese capital. João's armies were routed and the Romans secured the Mediterranean as their lake, but Portugal still wasn't down. Their ally of England came to their assistance, and with their combined naval strength gave them complete control of the Atlantic and free rein to raid our coasts. The people, still sour about losing their freedoms and now their farmlands, couldn't be secured without stopping the raids, which required threatening the English homeland to force an armistice. This would require a conquest of France and thus Gaul. This is the final stretch. Gaul themselves have a modern army, but have decided to stick with cavalry tactics instead of artillery, and this clash of doctrine was on a collision course in the Battle of Saint Etienne. The Gallians and their defensive position proved challenging to overcome, but the overwhelming firepower of Rome proved cavalry obsolete, scaring the horses and routing the Gallic armies. This artillery advantage was extended to the battle in the Atlantic, as after taking more cities, the coastal batteries drained British naval assets, so much so that the Romans began their own naval projects. It's a work in progress. With the Gallic army destroyed and lack of English one, Nantes, Paris, and Basel were taken in record time. Before making a puppet out of Portugal, many would call a cop-out to avoid having to move their forces down south. But as we all know, it was to help administrate this now new Roman Empire. Without England though, I'm not dealing with that bullshit. I mentioned earlier a tech advantage was pivotal in reforming Rome, but what if we didn't have that? In fact, what if we didn't have any technology at all? Check out this video where I beat Civ 6 without researching any technologies.